In the shadows of the remote Idaho mountains, one family's desire for independence spiraled into one of the most infamous standoffs in American history. Ruby Ridge, where mistrust, fear, and tragedy combined, shaking the nation to its core. This is a story of survival, deadly confrontations, and a relentless pursuit of freedom that left a lasting scar on America's trust in its government. Randy Weaver was a former Green Beret who, with his wife Vicki and their children, moved to the rugged mountains of Idaho in the 1980s. Seeking to escape what they saw as a corrupt and morally decaying society, they found a secluded spot and built their life off the grid. Yet this pursuit of isolation brought them under scrutiny. Weaver's association with anti-government groups and attendance at militia meetings placed him on the FBI's radar. In 1989, an undercover federal agent approached Weaver, persuading him to saw off shotguns for what would later be revealed as an illegal weapons deal. This single act would set the wheels of disaster into motion, leading Weaver down a path of no return. Weaver was later charged with federal firearm violations, but when his court date was postponed and he missed it, a bench warrant was issued. It was a miscommunication that would have tragic consequences, as it escalated his status to a federal fugitive. The U.S. Marshal Service was tasked with bringing Weaver in, but they faced a dilemma. Randy Weaver wasn't a typical fugitive. He was armed, distrustful of the government, and firmly planted on his property. On August 21, 1992, U.S. Marshals came to Weaver's property for reconnaissance. As they were moving through the dense forest, they encountered Weaver's 14-year-old son, Samuel, and a family friend, Kevin Harris. A standoff ensued. In the chaos, shots were fired, leaving young Samuel and U.S. Marshal William Deegan dead. In an instant, the situation escalated beyond control. One boy's life was lost, and now the Weaver family was under siege. They retreated to their cabin, armed and surrounded, as federal agents closed in. With a U.S. Marshal killed, the FBI arrived the next day. Armed agents and snipers took positions around the Weaver cabin. But communication was fractured, and the FBI's rules of engagement were unprecedented. Any armed adult male seen outside could be shot on sight. On August 22nd, as the family huddled inside, Randy Weaver went to check on his son's body. A shot rang out, striking Randy in the arm. Seconds later, Vicki Weaver, who was standing in the cabin doorway holding her infant daughter, was fatally shot by a sniper. For 11 long days, the siege continued. The Weaver family, wounded, grieving, and isolated, held their ground. Federal negotiators attempted to establish communication, but their efforts were met with silence and distrust. Randy Weaver believed they could trust no one. Finally, with assistance from civilian negotiators, Randy Weaver agreed to surrender. On August 31, 1992, he and Kevin Harris emerged, weary and broken. The siege was over, but the nation was left reeling from the events of Ruby Ridge. The Ruby Ridge incident didn't end with the surrender. It sparked outrage and led to congressional investigations, revealing flaws in the FBI's rules of engagement. Public outcry forced the government to reconsider its approach to high-stakes standoffs. In the years that followed, the events of Ruby Ridge fueled the militia movement, intensifying distrust of government authority. In 1995, the government paid the Weaver family $3.1 million in a wrongful death settlement, admitting to mistakes made during the standoff. Ruby Ridge became a rallying cry for those who believed in individual freedoms, forever reminding the nation of the dangers when the line between justice and violence is blurred.